Will the San Francisco 49ers keep it going in week 5 or a bounce back week for the Arizona Cardinals in what's been an up and down season for a lot of teams in the NFL, including these two familiar opponents in week 5? It's Locked On 49ers, Locked On Cardinals crossover. All that and more coming at you right now.
Let's go.
You are Locked On NFL crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to another Locked On Podcast Network crossover. 49ers, Cardinals. Brian Peacock here of Locked On 49ers with Alex Clancy of Locked On Cardinals at BD Peacock at Clancy's Corner. Thanks everybody for making Locked On 49ers and Locked On Cardinals, respectively, your first listens on the Locked On Podcast Network. For your second listen, you can, listen to the Enemies podcasts if you want throughout the week. You can check out Locked On NFL. You can check out, in my opinion, the best second listen on the network is the Peacock and Williamson NFL show. Myself and former NFL scout Matt Williamson breaking down the entire league daily. We're doing biggest storylines, key matchups, and what the path to victory might look like for the 49ers and the Cardinals here in week 5. Today's episode of Crossover Thursday, as all Crossover Thursdays are, is presented by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app and use code LOCKEDONNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. What's up, Alex? Good to see you. Good to chat with you. Interesting football teams coming in here to week number 5. What would you say is the biggest storyline for the Arizona Cardinals here, coming off a loss with the team that, like the Washington Commanders and the Arizona Cardinals coming into the week last week? I thought these teams are very similar, so this is going to be a fascinating game. And then Cliff went and put 42 points up on you. What's going on with that?
Yeah, it's an interesting balance with an offense that's ready to rock and a defense that isn't. And I think we're starting to slowly unravel the yarn ball of like, what the hell is going on? And a lot of things are still, there's still big question marks everywhere. So the biggest storyline is, can the offense keep up and give the defense some leeway to be undermanned like they are and still somewhat compete? I mean, we saw after week 3 where they blanked Detroit in the second half. You see what they did to Seattle's defense Monday of last week. So it's just weird, like two-faced defense where it's like they shouldn't be good, and then they ball out for 2 weeks in a row and hold opposing defenses. Then the Cardinals offense can't do much, especially, the last 2 weeks. So the biggest storyline for me is allowing Kyler Murray to be more Kyler Murray-ish, running the ball more, not being a pocket passer specifically, trying to keep him healthy, and just letting him go. Because any sort of restraint on him is a restraint on the entire team, and the defense can't hold up if the offense isn't putting up a whole bunch of points. The problem, Brian, is they've scored touchdowns on their opening drives each of the first 4 weeks, so they can do it. It's just a matter of what the hell happens in the second half of the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I do think the Arizona Cardinals are a well-coached team. I like what's going on in the offense. I like the way they put together an offensive line there. And, obviously every team's got nicked up and got some injuries here and there. The 49ers have a lot of them. It's one of the bigger storylines we'll get to in a minute here at the San Francisco 49ers. But, that defensive roster, even though I think they're well-coached on the defensive side of the ball, I just don't think they have the bullets on defense. And I think sometimes it's just so painfully obvious. And it's probably what we saw last week too with the Cardinals, right, against the Commanders. It's like, if you can stay in front of the sticks, if you can win some battles here and there, and make it so you're not one dimensional, then you can hang, right, and you can score some points. But as soon as a team figures out how to beat you, it doesn't matter how good the scheme is if you don't have the players that can beat the other guys and can win their individual matchups. And so I think that's what's going to be so difficult for the Cardinals. And that's why we're going to see a little bit more up and down with them throughout the rest of the year. And, I was surprised, like, oh man, maybe they have arrived. And maybe I was a little bit wrong about some of the talent on the defensive side of the ball. And then you see, okay, now they're 1-3 record. And then you start to see, okay, yeah, there is some problems on the defensive side of the ball, which is where I think it really comes down to that. I think for the 49ers and the Cardinals here is the 49ers have one of the better offenses in the league. And their biggest storyline is the injuries and no Christian McCaffrey. And you've had some banged up stars on the offensive side of the ball, including Deebo Samuel, but he's going to be ready to go this week. George Kittle's been banged up, but he'll be ready to go again this week as well. Brandon Ayuk, the $30 million man, hasn't really even been needed that much on the 49ers offense because Juwan Jennings has stepped up. And you've got the second leading rusher in the NFL and the guy who's filling in for Christian McCaffrey. So even though they've had a lot of injuries, specifically on the offensive side of the ball, I don't think that's been the problem. Like that, the injuries aren't really the reason the 49ers have lost the first 2 weeks. So while a lot has been made of the injuries that the 49ers have dealt with McCaffrey and, Javon Hargrave done for the year now, Talanoa Hufanga came back for one game and then hurt himself again and was out last week. That really hasn't been the problem for the 49ers. The problem with the 49ers is they've gotten beat up front a couple of times, which is something that we haven't seen from this team a lot. And so the 49ers are a fascinating team. And like other teams in the NFL, some up and down performances throughout the first 4 weeks. And so I think we're still learning what every team in the NFL is, because it's, the NFL is a small sample league. And even after 3 games, 4 games, do you really know who a team is? Because you think and then all of a sudden it flips on you the next week. And so for the 49ers, you have to be able to say, okay, look, we know we can play offense. It doesn't matter who's out. It's a great scheme. Brock Purdy's leading the league in passing. You got the second leading rusher in the NFL. You got your wide receiver 3, who's actually third instead of third on the team, he's third in the NFL in receiving yards. And then you sprinkle in the stars that we haven't really seen blow up yet in Debo and George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk statistically, even though they've each made big plays in the first 4 weeks. You would think that they would be able to run the Cardinals defense out of the building. And so that's the hope for the 49ers right now coming in to this one. And until I see a reason to believe otherwise, that's how I think this game is going to go. Do the Cardinals have an answer for the 2 7th rounders and the undrafted free agent running back that the 49ers are torching the league with right now?
Well, so here's the thing. It's like with all of that, sure, the embarrassment of riches in San Francisco due to good drafting, timely trades, etc., and retention of talent is waning. There is a time clock on it now, but it's not there yet. That's at the end of the year when they determine Brock Purdy or everybody else. For the Cardinals now, how they can take advantage of this, and the biggest storyline in it is, if you give me the Cardinals offense versus the 49ers offense playing Madden on easy, I think it's a lot closer than people think. If you ask James Conner behind San Francisco's offensive line or Jordan Mason behind the Cardinals offensive line, you're taking James Conner. If you ask Kyler Murray or Brock Purdy, I'm assuming most people will take Brock Purdy just because of his pedigree and what he's done. Who can make more special plays? TBD. Marvin Harrison Jr. is arguably right behind Brandon Ayuk in his capability to make plays outside. Deebo Samuel is more of an everything guy. Deebo Samuel's hurt a lot, so I know people love him in Northern California. I can take him or leave him, and I think he'd be the odd man out if he had to remove one player from this offense, including George Kittle. I think you'd agree with me on that. Maybe not. But for biggest storylines is, for the Cardinals sense, as opposed to regarding stopping San Francisco, is, can the Cardinals win the time of possession battle? That is the storyline. Can the offense hum? Because if this game is scored in the 40s, the Cardinals are going to lose. If it's in the 50s, that means the Cardinals are putting up points, hopefully not down by 30. And this offense, when humming, can go up against any offense in the NFL. It just depends on if their defense can stop anybody. So it's a very off-kilter roster right now for the Cardinals, but we've seen great things, and it's just a matter of finding the right offensive scheme to be able to maximize the potential the Cardinals offense has.
And oddly enough, the 49ers, even after losing 2 games, have won the time of possession battle in each of the 4 weeks this season.
Yeah, which is massive. If you can run the ball, that's what happens.
And the Niners have been. Some of those box scores, by the way, like, I don't know how the 49ers lost the Rams game, because the Rams are awful. And they had them beat, and they were up multiple scores. How do you lose that football game? I mean, it's just inexplicable. So the 49ers need to not pull off the inexplicable in the negative sense in this game against the Arizona Cardinals. I think key matchups. I got some questions about this Arizona Cardinals team, and I think we can learn from each other about what edition of the Cardinals and 49ers is going to be out there in Week 5 in their first matchup in 2024. Next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers and Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is the place to find tickets and especially get great deals on those last-minute tickets for NFL football games, Cardinals and Niners games. You can find them on Game Time. College football, basketball, hockey, baseball, maybe some playoff baseball, whatever it is, you can find it on Game Time, concerts, comedy shows. I got some concert tickets coming up that I found on Game Time, and I'm super pumped to go. And I'm waiting for some deals on a couple other events and some concerts that I might want to go see too, that I got some friends going to. I was like, yeah, if I can get one of those last minute deals on Game Time, I'm going to see you there as well. And now Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first ticket purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Brian Peacock and Alex Clancy here of Locked On 49ers and Locked On Cardinals, respectively. It's time for some key matchups in this game. Week 5 Cards at the San Francisco 49ers. This one isn't as much of a matchup as it is a question. And what's the scouting report? What are the early returns on the guy that a lot of people was the best player in the NFL draft this year, Marvin Harrison Jr.? After week 1, there was people talking about his GPS and how he's the slowest rookie in the world. And people were like, oh no, they missed. He's not fast. He didn't work out in before the draft. And then he came back and scored a couple touchdowns the next week. And everyone's like, oh, never mind. He's pretty good. So what are the early returns on Marvin Harrison Jr.? How do you cover this guy?
He's good football. The thing is, what they haven't figured out yet, how do you cover this guy? If the scheme is right, you can't. You can bracket him like what a Buffalo did. They play too high. They're notorious for it. The Cardinals took what the defense gave to them in week 1, and they put up 21 points on offensive return and kickoff return, and they were 6 points away from winning that game, okay? So Marvin Harrison Jr., his job is going to be easier if they can run the ball effectively. They could not in Detroit. They still found him for a touchdown on the opening drive. The thing that the Cardinals need to figure out is how to pivot him from a rookie wide receiver who's open sometimes to scheming him open like Devontae Adams has always been, the big name, DeAndre Hopkins, the big names for a long time, Justin Jefferson, where it's like it doesn't matter if you scheme for him, he is always open. Like that's the 0-1 jump that may not happen this year. But for Marvin Harrison Jr. to continue to have this success, it's got to be in a broader scope, and that is Drew Petzing, that's Kyler Murray. They haven't been forcing him the ball at all. They got to find that gray area where you do a little bit and let the kid go make plays that's not just timing routes, Hail Mary balls that Kyler Murray throws to 50-50 balls. It's got to be closer to catchable balls, run some outs, run some slants, get him going early, and then that unlocks the entire offense. Peacock, it doesn't have to be his numbers. It has to be numbers that get smacked the defense in the mouth, and then you can run the ball with lighter boxes. You can find, Michael Wilson. You can have Kyler Murray run the ball, Trey McBride, etc. But he is the key to all of this. And this is going to be a very tough test with Nick Bosa, et cetera, on the other side of the line in an effort to give Kyler Murray enough time to be able to find him open. It's going to be big, though.
In a league where it feels like everybody's too high all the time, and by the way, the 49ers were too high, and they still got beat for a 97-yard touchdown from Sam Darnold to Jefferson in week 2, which kind of surprised the hell out of everybody when that happened. And so the safety still got split and beat deep by, one of the better receivers in the NFL. But the 49ers, in a league where a lot of teams are running mostly too high, they're single high team right now. They're about 60% of the time running either cover 1 or cover 3, and then throwing in some quarters. And that's, probably 75% or more of what their coverages are. So that'll be interesting to see if they pay extra attention to the young player, try to bracket him, try to make Kyler Murray beat them elsewhere. One of the things that you can do when you have single highs, you have more guys near the box. And I think that's what the 49ers try to do, is stop the run first, force you into 3rd and long, try to let Nick Bosa go get you. And the 49ers were able to just thrash what I think is probably, after last week, I was blown away how bad the offensive line was for the New England Patriots. And the Cards have a better offensive line. So if the Cardinals can get them blocked up front and find some room in the back end against a cover 1 that the 49ers have been running a lot more man this year than they have in the past, that's probably the path to beating the 49ers. So maybe that Kyler Murray to Marvin Harrison Jr. connection can create some waves and make some big plays. We've seen the 49ers beat deep by Tutu Atwell. So Marvin Harrison can make a play.
But I think, you need to crawl before you can walk in the Cardinals offense, in the sense that this is the biggest thing for me. This isn't even a path to victory for the Cardinals. This should be a tenet that's been forgotten over the last handful of weeks. Kyler Murray not running the ball is something that, and like, dude, this is almost our 20th one that we've done since taking over, since doing this since 2017. Okay. We've known each other for a long time. I've never been a guy that says Kyler Murray must run the ball for this offense to work. Having said that, if the offense is stagnant, there are very few things in the NFL offensively that will catch opposing defenses off guard. It's Lamar Jackson running the ball. It's Jalen Hurts in space. It's Josh Allen. It's like, oh, wait, our defensive scheme doesn't work because we always have to monitor this. And they haven't had to monitor that. So you're looking at a 5'10" pocket passer, which is an oxymoron. So that's something that absolutely needs to be wrinkled in once, twice, and not even design runs, but an RPO where he knows that he's got his left tackle blocking for him already off tackle, where he can maybe beat a backer for 15 yards and keeps everybody honest. That's the first step in this offense that's been removed. And I think they're trying to keep him safe. And even Kyler Murray came out and said, like, I'm not sure why 1 for 3 yards last week happened. So that's the biggest thing for me. And I've talked about this a lot, so I'm a little extra passionate today. That's the one for me offensively that unlocks everything that will allow Marvin Harrison Jr. to have more time, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that's the biggest thing that's been missing, man.
And you know what? Probably almost every one of those 20 crossovers we've done with Cards 49ers, I've talked about how the 49ers defense kind of struggles a little bit against athletic quarterbacks who make those back-breaking plays. And you've got everybody covered up and you're able to pressure them, and then they escape the other side and are able to scramble for a first down on third down and keep the chains going. And so that's absolutely an aspect. And look, Kyler Murray, you're making your offense worse if Kyler Murray's not making some plays with his legs, because that's one of the strengths that you should absolutely be utilizing. And you don't need to make him a run-first quarterback, and you don't have to lean into it too much, but he should absolutely be making a ton of plays. And the 49ers defense is probably one that you're going to try to make some plays with and try to stay away from that pass rush. And we'll see if Fred Warner got a little banged up in the last game. I think he's going to be okay, but man, one of the key matchups in this game will be that, Kyler Murray using his legs, getting out and getting chased down by the 49ers linebackers, specifically Fred Warner, who's played like defensive player of the year early this year. I mean, he's already one of the best players in the NFL, but he's taken it to another level this year. It's been pretty phenomenal to watch him get even better, and something you weren't even sure was possible.
Has part of that been, and we'll talk, like, we could do this for 2.5 hours, but like, has part of that been Devondre Campbell, former Arizona Cardinal Devondre Campbell? Like, he went from Arizona to Green Bay, became a Pro Bowler, and then now he's a guy who's making money. Like, has he been that like backup dancer that Fred Warner's needed alongside him in the middle of the defense to be able to maximize Warner's potential?
No. He's been somebody that 49ers fans want benched, to be honest, for the most part. He's not been that bad, but he has been somebody that opposing offenses have been targeted, most specifically in the passing game, is kind of where he's had a little bit of struggles. I don't think he's been a huge problem for the 49ers necessarily, and there's times where he's made plays as well, and he's obviously a pro, but yeah, there was a game, it was one of the two losses, I can't remember now which game it was, but he was being targeted over and over again, and it was clear that the opposing offense was like, look, when this is the way we can beat this team, is targeting this player in the passing game, because he's the weak link on defense, which is surprising because it's something he was good at earlier in his career, and I think that's why he's kind of become more of a journeyman type of player at this point in his career. But he's a fine player. The 49ers would really like to get Dre Greenlaw back, though, at some point mid-season, maybe before they play the Cardinals the second time.
And when you're looking at key matchups, I think for me, it's Nick Bosa versus Paris Johnson Jr. Paris Johnson is a top 10 rated left tackle now. The Cardinals have found their guy, it seems, after trading back and then trading back up 2 drafts ago. Nick Bosa is always an absolute demon on the other side of the line. Banged up. Did he missed a game, right? And now he's back?
Bosa?
Yeah.
No, Bosa's been out there every week.
Okay, got it. I know that they've been riddled with injuries. So, yeah, I mean, that's going to be for me, like, can Paris Johnson Jr. step up? I mean, he held his own last year against some of the best fronts in football, but Nick Bosa is just – people don't even talk about him anymore. It's kind of funny how he's just kind of overlooked. I know that you love that stuff. It's like, undervalued, underappreciated. It's time to eat, but we know in the NFC West for sure.
And by the way, Fred Warner is officially listed as questionable right now with his leg injury. And I think it was an ankle that he's dealing with last week. And I think he'll end up going. We'll find out a little bit later in the week with those practice reports, especially Thursday and Friday are key. But he's Pro Football Focus's highest graded player in the NFL right now, 95.9. And so I want to see him out there on the field because I want to see that matchup. And the 49ers need to stop a formidable run game, and they need to stop a formidable offense. And it's important to have all of those players at your disposal if you're going and trying to win a game. The 49ers can't fall back below 500. And for the Cardinals, they can't fall too far behind either, because you can't let the Seahawks and the 49ers run away with this thing. Do you remember the NFC West? By the way, we got a break here in a second, but do you remember the NFC West preview that we did with all the hosts? And we were kind of giving Doug from Locked On Rams a hard time, and he was predicting the Rams to win. And we were like, "Oh, you're a homer," but I didn't expect the Rams to be as bad as they are, by the way, right now, because they looked awful. And obviously there's some injuries on top of it, but they've got some issues. They've got some problems. And so I want to see the Cardinals finish in front of those Rams, because they should, because they're a better team.
Well, I mean, if it wasn't for Matthew Stafford, they'd be 0-4, and it would be gross. Like Matthew Stafford is going how good Matthew Stafford is.
They should be 0-4 anyway with Matthew Stafford.
I can't believe the 49ers lost him. That was a big one. I'm like, wait, this is getting closer. And then once Matthew Stafford gets into that state, it's like, this team is going to lose this game. Yeah, and there's no reason. Like, it was crazy.
The Niners are just like, well, we should have this game, but you know what? Here's a game for you. You get to win one this year. Anyway, we're talking Niners, Cardinals here. Let's get into the paths to victory. What's it going to look like with the Niners win? What's it look like with the Cards win Sunday? Niners, Cardinals crossover. We'll finish it up next. This episode of Locked On 49ers and Locked On Cardinals, presented by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. NFL fans can keep the season going with a big return right now at FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, special offer for those new customers, because you can get $200 in bonus bets. That's $200 free to play with at FanDuel, guaranteed. And all you got to do is place your first $5 bet. No matter if you win or lose on that $5 bet, $200 more in bonus bets to play with. And by the way, when you're sitting there Sunday, you're watching 49ers Cardinals, you get a little hunch in the middle of the game. You want to go check out the latest stats, maybe view some live play-by-play. Well, you can find all that and so much more on the very same page where you're placing your bets at FanDuel. And maybe you'll find some insights there on some bets you want to make and get in on some more action at FanDuel. And again, you'll get started with $200 for new customers in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Smart money on the 49ers in this one. All you got to do is go to FanDuel.com, download the app, and download America's #1 sports book. That is FanDuel.com. So looking at FanDuel, Niners favored by a touchdown in this one. So it would be a Cards upset, according to the bookmakers, Alex. And according to me, it would be a Cardinals upset. Would it be a Cardinals upset to you? What would that look like? Paint the picture for a Cardinals win Sunday at the San Francisco 49ers.
Everything would be erased. All of the negativity would be erased. It means Kyler Murray has a massive day. And that's the elixir for all things happiness in Arizona. The path to victory for the Cardinals, winning time of possession. They haven't been on the field for more than 27 minutes the last couple of weeks, which, you know, it's like the Richter scale. I mean, you're in Northern California. I grew up in LA. Like, every number that goes up is 100 times worse than the one before, or 1,000 times worse, something like that. So the fact that the Cardinals have been on the field for only 27 minutes, leaving this depleted, talent-wise defense on the field for 33-plus minutes a game, it's a recipe for disaster, and it has been. So running the ball effectively is where it starts. James Conner had 100-plus rushing yards last week. A lot of it was in garbage time. A lot of it was on one drive that resulted in a touchdown that cut the game to a 13-point deficit. It wasn't early on. They threw the ball a lot early. Kyler Murray needs to be no longer a game manager, but more of a game wrecker. And this is going against everything that I said when the season started. Run the ball, play action, tight end, wide receivers. Kyler Murray stay behind the line of scrimmage. They got to scrap it at this point and just hope that he knows how to use his body and stay in space. Slide, roll, get out of bounds, LaDainian Tomlinson it, whatever you have to do to not get hit while getting chunk gains is something that Kyler Murray needs to do in an effort to win. And I know it's far-fetched because of the defense that they're playing against that knows him so well. Mitch Artavius Ward, this is his sixth time playing against Kyler Murray. Fred Warner's never not. Nick Bosa's never not. It's just they know him so well. So this is going to be scheme plus Kyler Murray in an effort to unlock this entire offense in an effort to be on the field for longer than the defense is, and that's the only way the Cardinals are going to win, because there's no track record of this defense that's currently constructed being able to stop this offense, regardless if Christian McCaffrey's there or not.
The 49ers have had a few bouts this season with not being able to get off the field on third downs. And I think that is absolutely one of the keys. And for the Arizona Cardinals to be able to run the ball a little bit against the 49ers, be able to keep converting those third downs and not just have big plays, but have, long drives that keeps the 49ers off the field. And of course, that's what the 49ers are built on, staying in front of the sticks, running the ball well. Jordan Mason's number 2 in the NFL. It wasn't for Derrick Henry going for 200 yards last week. He would be the league's leading rusher right now. That's without Christian McCaffrey on the field. So the 49ers still can run the ball, and they're still, a balanced offense. And these days, a balanced offense means you're kind of a run-first offense. And so they're going to run the ball. Kyle Shanahan wants to be able to have his entire playbook at his disposal. So, that's obviously task number 1 for the Cardinals, is to stop the 49ers run game. It's task number 1 for every team that ever plays Kyle Shanahan and a Mike Shanahan before that football team. So can the Cardinals do that? I have my doubts if the Cardinals defense is going to be up to the challenge there. And so that's why I like the 49ers to win this game, because Kyle Shanahan will be able to be in his bag. He will be able to run the football effectively. He will be able to play around with some wide back. And then you get Deebo Samuel in the backfield. And then you get Juwan Jennings out on the field as well. And, a little use check here and there. You get Kittle over the middle if you're trying to pay too much attention to other guys. So there's just too many weapons and too many ways that Kyle Shanahan can beat you if he's able to get in his bag, if he's able to keep the offense balanced and not become one-dimensional. So for the Cardinals, don't let them score early, because you don't want to be chasing the Cardinals, because you become a little bit more one-dimensional. You want to be able to, have a close game, have the lead, be able to run and pass in just about any time you want it, and make the defense respect that. And I kind of expect that is the way that things are going to go on Sunday, and the 49ers will be able to win this one. 7 points, though. I thought 10 felt like a lot, the way the 49ers had laid a couple eggs last week against the Patriots, and they just destroyed the New England Patriots. Now, Cardinals have a much better offensive line, so 7 points is kind of a lot, but it's at home. What we saw the last week, I kind of like the Niners, and I would maybe even get up those 7 points. I don't know if I want to make a pure score prediction here in this one, but I do like the 49ers for that reason, because I don't think when you're drawing all these, you're like, okay, we need this to happen for the Cardinals on offense. Oh, the 49ers have players that can stop that. One of the best offenses in the league right now is the San Francisco 49ers. Can the Arizona Cardinals defense stop that? Stop what they're trying to do? And I have a harder time believing that story than the other story.
Yeah. I mean, they did play a lot of catch up that ballooned those numbers against Minnesota. Okay. They had the lead and then lost it all to the Rams. So it's not just the stats tell the story. And they played a bad New England team last week. Like, yes, their offense is formidable, of course. It's Kyle Shanahan calling card. The one thing the Cardinals have going for them is the NFL may, not literally, but this is a perfect time for the NFL to be like, knock, knock, knock. Remember, crazy things happen. This just feels like one of those games where it's like, there's no way the Cardinals should be in contention in this game. And this is the time where the Cardinals have a Matt Prater 55-yard field goal to win by 1 and walk it off in some random fashion. We've seen this happen between these teams a lot, where the Cardinals go to Levi. They've had good success at Levi Stadium, average success. They've won a couple games there with Kyler Murray there. Is there a strong chance that it's going to happen? No, I'm not going to be a meteorologist and say it's not going to rain when the clouds are in the air. I get all of that. Having said that, the Cardinals have been a couple plays in each of their 2 losses, aside from this past week, from starting 3-0. And they play Buffalo, which is a good team, and they play Detroit, which I would take in a 7-game series over San Francisco. So I think that if the Cardinals don't beat themselves, they don't have 3 and outs, and they can stay on the field, this is going to be a closer game than people expect. I don't know if they'll cover the 7. I don't know if they're going to win, but I think that if the Cardinals don't beat themselves, this will be a closer game than people anticipate.
It's not like the Cards are going to be surprised, not only because the 49ers are a familiar opponent, but the Cardinals have played a more difficult schedule than the 49ers have this year. The Niners haven't seen a team as good as the Bills or as good as the Lions so far this year. So it's going to be an interesting one. And
NFL. Let me ask you this, because I want to ask you this before we get out of here. I'm sorry to interrupt.
It's all good.
You've seen enough sample size, and I'm not a Brock Purdy hater by any stretch. I don't. I see what I'm like, cool. People are just jealous they don't have that spot, and they've had other quarterbacks who have not been able to execute the way he has. So I understand all of that. Him being a 300-plus yard per game passer out of 10, let's say out of 5, how much does that worry you in the long run where, Christian McCaffrey's on Mars checking out his Achilles, it's stuff that 1 to 5 for the entire season? How sustainable, how much does that worry you in the big picture?
It worries me like a 1 out of 5. It doesn't worry me at all. If that's the right number on the meter, if you mean. So low means it doesn't worry me a lot. It doesn't. I have utmost respect and belief in Brock Purdy. I think there's some things he's limited at is where there's balls he can't fit in. He can't be that late on a throw like say Josh Allen can. But he's so good. He makes plays with his legs. He is so smart. He knows where to go with the football. He'll do some weird things occasionally, but the 49ers, I think, just have proven, and he has proven. And by the way, they've run the ball fine without Christian McCaffrey. So he adds an element for sure, but they can go wide back to get a little bit more Deebo Samuel, pass catching element out of the backfield if they want to replace the Christian McCaffrey usage. So McCaffrey usage is really McCaffrey is just kind of icing on the cake for the 49ers. And a lot of people wanted to make it seem like McCaffrey makes the offense go, as if Kyle Shanahan's never been able to run the ball before Christian McCaffrey showed up, right? McCaffrey's not that. And McCaffrey's awesome, but he's the icing on the cake. The 49ers still have that cake. And sometimes I kind of prefer cake without icing. I don't know if that's weird.
You're a maniac.
But I do. And that's kind of what the 49ers are right now. There's still cake, and it's still really good. And multiple layers of cake. And if you cover up Ayuk, you bracket him, Juwan Jennings is going for 11 catches, 170 yards, and 3 touchdowns, right? And they're still able to run the ball. So, and Brock Purdy has been really awesome. I'm a 100% believer in Brock Purdy, his ability to facilitate and make all of that go. And if they need to lean on Brock Purdy, I got no problems with it. And I think they'll be just fine on the offensive side of the ball. And by the way, Brock Purdy, man, he was forged in that Arizona heat. And for some reason, the marine layer just pieced out in the Bay Area. It's 90 degrees where I am. It's never 90 degrees where I am. And I'm cooking right now. And so I understand how it is now to be forged in that. And I'm not built that way. I'm not built that way anymore. I'm too soft. It's 65.
Prenatal.
Yeah, exactly.
Prenatal when it comes to understanding what it's like to be in the heat. Okay.
So Brock Purdy understands that. And so he's made for the heat. And it's going to be a fun game. And division games are always close. And as you mentioned, Alex, the NFL is chaos. So don't go marking down any wins yet, even though I do like the 49ers by 8 in this one. Cover that number. Thank you so much, everybody, for making us. Yeah, Alex is speechless. He knows that's the right pick. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen on Locked On 49ers and Locked On Cardinals, respectively. Here on the Locked On Podcast Network for your second listen, check out Locked On NFL. Check out the Peacock and Williamson NFL show. And remember, no matter the sport, your team is covered. Alex, have a fun weekend. I'll talk to you next time. What week? 18? I think it's the finale, right? Niners Cards. So it'll be a little while, and we'll see. Hopefully we're fighting for a division title right there in week 18. That would be a whole lot of fun. Thanks to all the listeners out there. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and everywhere you listen to your podcasts. And Alex and I will be back. Locked On 49ers and Locked On Cardinals tomorrow. Talk to you then.